Hey guys, how's it going? Prometheus back here yet again on another beautiful Friday with you with the second episode of the series, Risk, Reward, and Fire. So happy to be here with you guys. And before we get started, hit that like button, share the video. Would love it if you subscribed. Bitcoin just tagged 118K. We're going to be addressing what does that mean for our alts. How long is Altseason gonna be? Let me get a screen here up for you guys. What we have here is the total 3 ES BTC chart, which I did share for you guys last week. Last week we compared it to Bitcoin, right? When are we really going to get that signal for altcoins to fly?
You are not timing the market correctly, as you may think. Bitcoin, where we're at currently, if you see us consolidate and break previous all-time highs with daily closes above 111, would then likely be in confluence with total 3 breaking its descending trend line, and the meat of the move still having yet to happen for alts. And then you're able to catch the meat of the move and remove all the headache out of it.
This week we've done something a little bit differently. We're actually comparing it to our others BTC charts. So again, just to reiterate, total 3 ES BTC is the total 3 market cap, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins in relation to Bitcoin. And then our others BTC chart is going to be all of our altcoins outside of the top 10 in relation to Bitcoin. So we're moving those stablecoins and we're kind of getting a more clear, concise view on what our altcoins are going to do. So let's get things kicked off for you guys. So starting out here, just kind of want to run back what we've been seeing on this total 3 chart so that we can refresh our knowledge and our understanding, and then we'll dive into kind of what we got lined up underneath it. So the total 3 ES BTC chart, again, this is on the weekly time frame. And what you can see from a cyclical perspective in 2017, 2020, 2021, and now this cycle is typically what occurs in altcoins, at least, is you have some form of high time frame range be set. And this typically leads to some form of ranging environment in altcoins, and you see those cyclical flows. We talk about the roller coaster where liquidity flows in and out of them. And this cycle, it's been pretty similar where we haven't seen, that monster rotation into alts, but I'm here to tell you why that is actually going to change in the context, lining a few things up in context with the charts. So again, 2027, 2020, 2021, and this cycle, we put in a sideways range in, if, outlined here by that green box. And we typically have a break of the cyclical lows similar to what we're in right now, right? And this sets us up for a beautiful PO3 setup, which is currently what we're currently getting. Once we do get that reclaim of the cyclical range lows, we then enter our confirmed PO3 expansionary phase higher, which all in all, means that our altcoins are actually going to start to put in, really strong legs higher, and we're going to see a really, really strong bull market. And people ask me, okay, once we enter that, that mode, well, how long does it take? So from a historical standpoint, if we look back to 2017, that time period really only lasted a month. But it's important to, realize and note that 2017, from a structural dynamics and kind of like the characteristics of the market, was that, right, the market wasn't so focused on altcoins at that time. It was very much BTC dominated. You have a few other coins like Ethereum and XRP do decently well, and a few other names outside of that. But besides that, we really didn't have a quote unquote strong alt season. Everything really just kind of got dragged up with the market. But we did have 4 weeks of outperformance in total 3, that is, in 2017. But 2020, 2021 was a completely different story, guys. Once we got that confirmed PO3 confirmation, and we entered into our trademarked money printer zone, we then entered a very prolonged period of upside outperformance in regards to total 3. And based off this date range that we pull right here, once we entered the excuse me, that messed up there. Once we pull the date range from the confirmation, it gave us, excuse me, my mouse is acting up here. Let me pull that for you guys. There we go. So we got 14 bars, or essentially 3 months of altcoin outperformance, right? And looking at this chart, a lot of people are going to suspect, if we did not pair it versus the others BTC chart, that you're going to see that one run up, right, into the quote unquote trademarked money printer zone at the shoulder that we left at 0.6, and that's going to be our cyclical tops. But I'm here to tell you that we might actually see more than one leg in altcoins if history is any representation of what is going to occur here moving forward. So again, 2020, 2021, we saw 3 months almost of altcoin outperformance in relation to Bitcoin. And I do believe we're going to see something here pretty similar. But if we come down here and we zoom in at our others BTC chart, we can see a few very, very interesting dynamics that I think are going to be they're going to play out very similar here moving forward as we start to see continued expansion higher in Bitcoin and ultimately Altseason really ensue. So in confluence with the run up in the money printer zone in 2017, we did see an expansionary leg higher at others BTC. Then after, we did see a little bit of a distribution and a larger pullback in altcoins, that is. And then what followed thereafter was a second leg higher, guys. And not only did we see that in 2017, we also saw that in 2020 and 2021, right? We saw our first initial big expansionary move higher and a pullback and consolidation into, yet again, another leg higher. So what I am expecting is something fairly similar. And from a contextual standpoint, that would line up based off of how liquidity behaves in the sector, right? So things are going to get dragged up with Bitcoin on this first initial leg up, and then once Bitcoin kind of chops around, you're going to see that outperformance and probably some cool off, and then leading into even a complacency shoulder, as we've seen for previous cycles, leads to some form of secondary topping structure in others BTC, that is. So a lot of people have been asking me, well, how long is this, is this really going to last? Well, we understand that our initial leg up could last upwards of 3 months, if not longer, from a prolonged cycle perspective, especially lining up with where macro conditions are at, with rate cuts coming down the pipeline, inflation's coming down. You have large stimulus from the Big Beautiful Bill that was just passed not too long ago. So from a macro perspective, a lot of things are lining up quite nicely, which actually could lead us into potentially a prolonged cycle, which I know a lot of you would be very excited about. So again, to structural similarities, from bouncing back to others BTC, it's structural similarities. We had our double topping structure, downtrend into sell off, and then you saw, right, these smaller quote unquote alt seasons in April, and beginning of 2019, and then also towards the middle of 2020, DeFi summer. And if you look at the structural similarities from 2021 to where we're at now, double topping structure into sell off and downtrend. We then see our quote unquote mini alt seasons at the beginning of 24, and also the beginning of, or leading into the end of last year. And a lot of people are taking what we've seen this cycle into context in relation to how high we're really going to run up in regards to the velocity and the veracity of the move. And it's interesting to think from a structural perspective, if history is indication of anything that may similarly happen, the moves that we saw in altcoins at 2020, at the beginning of 2024, and the end of 24, are actually going to be very small in comparison to what we're actually about to see. And if we see a cyclical range low reclaim, and this is confirmed PO3, and we enter our money printer zone, and that lasts 3 months, let's just say it lasts 3 months, and that's being conservative. I think it could even last 5 months potentially. That would push us out into the end of this year. Now, if we look from a time frame perspective, how long it took from others BTC from its first high to its second high in 2017, that took 4 months, actually a little bit more than 4 months, or right at 4 months, and then from 2020 into 2021, double top perspective on others BTC, that took 35 bars, so almost 9 months between those highs. So if we do, have a 5 month long prolonged, money printer zone to the first high, and get our first top on others BTC, which pushes us out into the end of this year, potentially we could see a second top based off, again, if his history is any indication of anything, that could last anywhere from 4 months after the first top to 9 months after the first top. So that could push us out well into the mid to end of 2026 even, guys. And again, just looking at this chart from a prolonged perspective, you can see from a time-based range from 2020, or from the top of 2017 to 2021 versus 2021 to what we have now, it's taken much longer to put in that cyclical range lows and for us to really have this deviation. And so because of that, I do think this does potentially get pushed out for the first highs on altcoins into the end of the year, which would give alts a long time to run and a lot of time to move. And then a second high or second top potentially in mid to late 2026, which I think is quite fascinating. So if you liked the video, please give this video a thumbs up. Again, we'll see you next week, next Friday, that is, to wrap up the end of the week and hopefully drop some alpha for you guys with the new series, Risk, Reward, and Fire. So again, thank you so much. Prometheus with you guys here yet again. Take care.